Very good morning and welcome to Biz Talks. I hope you're keeping well. And Karibu Sana, have you told a friend to tell a friend about this conversation? Because guess who is in the house? Phyllis Wakiaga. I know when you hear her, there are many other companies that start ringing on your head. But today we're going to talk a very important and amazing topic about nurturing innovators for successful businesses in Africa. She's doing amazing work, by the way, down here in some places. In fact, I think today there will be something about, maybe she will tell us when and where. And she's also the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change Senior Private Sector Development Advisor and founder of Team Insight Kenya. I can't wait to have that conversation. Phyllis, karibu sana.
Thanks, Maina. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you as well. Wow, I don't know where to start this conversation because I met you in a different sphere now, but how has it been since then?
Since then, it's been great.
Yes.
Transitions and change are a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've enjoyed doing something new, learning new things, meeting new people.
Okay.
So after I left KM in June 2022,
Yes.
started a new role at the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change in July of 2022.
Yeah.
So it's been exciting.
You must miss the manufacturers.
I miss the manufacturers, but I'm still in touch with them because as a senior private sector development advisor, and I work on industrialization.
Yeah.
So I'm still doing work around manufacturing around the continent. Okay. So still in touch with them.
No, that's awesome. That's
yes.
Awesome. Let's talk about this particular subject. And I just wanted, before we get into this, there's a clear passion that you have because I've been observing what you do with young people. I just wanted to understand where this is coming from, especially with a clear focus for young people, especially teenagers. What informed this?
Thanks for that. My passion is really to inspire and empower people to achieve their full potential. That's pretty much my ikigai. That's, for me, why I think God put me on this planet. Yeah. So it's something I've been passionate about for years. So it's not just about teenagers, but about young people, about professionals, about people around me, trying to work together to just bring out the best in them to help them achieve their full potential. Yeah. So Tinsight for me was a passion project, which I registered in the year 2008. That was my early days in my career, trying to navigate and figure out what I want to do with life. Yeah. I'm a lawyer, but I don't really want to practice law at that time. So I said, I wish there was a program that would support young people to think through their careers, the options they have, provide mentorship and networking opportunities. So that early in my career, I registered Tinsight and said, this will be a vehicle that I use to support young people. At that time, I was young. And as I grow and God blesses me and gives me opportunities, I'll use the resources and the networks I have to do the same. So I'm paying back years later. I've done it since 2008, but in a small way. But this year in 2023, I decided to grow it, do more, bring my friends, partners on board who are passionate about mentorship and young people and are happy to support this cause. So that's what I've been doing as my side and passion for this year.
I love this because they sort of somehow merge because truth to what you've said, a lot of young people lack those opportunities where they can jump in, get mentored, get to learn, make choices. Because when I remember in my teens, I think I was confused.
Yes.
Someone asked me, what would you like to be? The things I would say then, it's not what I am today. Yeah. And you can tell it's a journey, and sometimes that hand-holding is very important. Yeah. So that's just to see you're doing the right thing, especially for these people.
Thank you.
But now you sit in two spheres where you're now observing things from a global perspective. Yeah. And we are seeing the youth and bulge in Africa, where we're boasting to have the most youthful in this continent. And we are talking about, nurturing these young people to be innovators. What do you see? I know I'm bringing in so many things. What do you see as the opportunity, especially for young people in Africa?
First of all, I see Africa as a land of great opportunity. I always say I'm a Pan-Africanist and unapologetically so. Yes. So for me, I see opportunity. I think that Africa is really the big thing. If you're looking at what's happening geopolitically, with what has happened with the COVID pandemic, what has happened with the conflict in Ukraine, the cost of living and all the challenges, it's making the entire world rethink how they have done business in the past, how we've had our supply chains and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a big opportunity for Africa because you'll see a lot of these businesses start to look for new places to relocate to. But beyond that, even the natural resources in our continent, we are the richest continent, and really lots of opportunity for us to still continue to grow. If you look at issues of climate change, I know we are most affected, but we've really done the least in terms of harm to the economy as a continent. So we sit at a very good place. So for the youth, I know it's a challenging time because there's a lot of unemployment with the high cost of living and all the challenges. It seems like it's bleak, but I'm very hopeful for the future of the continent. And because of that, that's why I think even for young entrepreneurs, innovators, there's room for us to take advantage of what exists as the opportunities within the continent, but also for our governments to work on dealing with the binding constraints in the market, the things that hold back businesses from being able to grow, which we can keep discussing. I know we know all of them, but really it's time for us to see momentum because the time is now. If we are not able to do this within the next 5, 10 years max, I think we'll have a big challenge as a continent in the future.
You know, I feel, this is my perspective, that you should be seated somewhere advising, especially in this government. This is just me saying, because I think 9 years with manufacturers and now with young people is really a wealth we need to really help us see these opportunities that we're talking about. And
thanks, Maina. You're my friend, and it's good to have friends like you who think I should be. But we influence. I'm a believer that leadership is about influence, and you don't need a title to influence.
You're right.
What you do in your show every day or every week is influence. You're planting a seed, you're having conversations, you're inspiring, you're equipping people. That on its own plays an important role. All of us are not going to sit in a cabinet. All of us are not going to be there, but we need to play our part wherever we are. So yes, the knowledge and the experience I have, I think, is something that I share openly. I have conversations. My current role gives me an opportunity to also input to. I really continue to just make a difference in the things that I do.
To share this. Let's talk about this now. Whole challenges that you see, and how we could address them. And from where you see, my question would be, what's the major challenge that you see affecting innovators and entrepreneurs locally, regionally, even globally? I have to bring the global perspective because now you're looking at us like this.
Thanks for that. Yes. So entrepreneurs, innovators globally face similar challenges. Last year I had the privilege of being part of an Eisenhower Fellowship and spent about 6 weeks in the US having conversations on entrepreneurship because my project was around supporting women-owned businesses to grow. And the challenges are the same. A big one, of course, is the competition and the cost of doing business because you're operating in a global environment, so you're dealing with competition from around the world, not just your market. The issue of technology is shifting so fast and moving at an unprecedented rate, so businesses are having to either invest more or catch up or be left behind. The other big issue, of course, is skills. I know sometimes we think finance is the biggest issue, but actually sometimes for entrepreneurs and innovators, having the right skills to grow your business, the managerial skills, the human resource, the marketing skills, those skills can be a big challenge. And then, of course, down to finance, especially for small businesses, especially for women entrepreneurs who are disadvantaged in terms of accessing finance due to the lack of collateral and just typically how our systems have been set up. So those are some of the big challenges that affect businesses globally, and wherever you go, you'll hear the same challenges.
Seems like it's almost similar everywhere.
It is, Only that governments address it differently. There are structured ways to deal with these issues, and in countries where they have found those structured ways, you find their businesses and innovators actually growing. If you look at countries like, whether it's Germany, the US, countries that have, South Korea, structured systems to support entrepreneurs, their businesses actually graduate. A business then remains small forever, which in our part of the world is the challenge. You have very few businesses graduating to become multinational global businesses. So smaller businesses struggle much more to grow than they do in other parts of the world.
Wow, and we need them to thrive because they're the ones that are holding the population, especially the largest numbers.
That's true.
I am curious because I know under your leadership, we founded, not we, you founded the Women in Manufacturing program. Just joking.
Thanks for associating.
Yes, I think it's because I know I was part and parcel of a bit of those programs,
Yes, you are.
especially in the counties. So, and you had a report, you called it the wing to that mentorship was one of the missing links in assisting women to advance their innovations and inventions. One key question, and I know you have pointed out that you have seen some similar challenges around the globe. Is it still the case as well for women? Is this a global issue from where you see it? And what do you think we should do to mitigate this?
Yes, it is an issue globally, as we've spoken, and more so for women businesses, typically because of the challenges that women face as they get into the job market, as they get into business, mainly around access to finance, also the role they play in society where they have a lot of multiple roles and expectations that also make it more difficult for them to grow. But as I said, a number of solutions do exist. Governments in some countries do provide business mentorship services. If you look at the US, for example, they have something called Women Business Centers across all states, and I visited some of them when I was in the fellowship. And what they do is they basically offer mentorship, guidance, skills development for businesses. They help you with your business plan. They help you with your marketing strategy. So they basically handhold those businesses. They also then link you to financing. I visited like a center called the Enterprise Center in one of the states in the US. And the Enterprise Center basically supports in even connecting entrepreneurs to financing. So those are some of the solutions that do exist globally. In Canada, they also have a similar program that runs for women businesses. Locally in Kenya, I know we've had things like the Women Fund and different programs, but really it's to see how do we have government support acceleration incubation services and do it at scale. Because we do it, but it's you find small initiatives, different entrepreneurs who've set up business centers that are trying to support. So it's not like something that we have made systemic across the counties and funded quite well. In the US, they have the SBA, the Small Business Administration Act, and it actually does provide resources for such centers across the country. They also have incentives for like their banking sector to put in resources that are affordable finance to support small businesses. So they have something called CDIFs. So things like that, I think, are policy measures that can actually make a difference and operate at scale, as opposed to individual initiatives, which then in the end don't have that maximum impact that we can have.
You're right. You know, as you speak this way, I feel, and I hope some government officials are tuned in, because these are just free tips that you're giving them of what we see. That if this was scaled, and we appreciate the simple initiatives that they have. I see it. Sometimes we don't have this success is being, spoken about. The other thing that I hear from your examples that you've shared is that you see the government being very intentional. And I think the programs, everything they've put is good. It's goodwill, especially for this. But we need to be more intentional now with the fact that this is the population that is larger, unemployed as well. I think more intention is needed.
That's
Which
true.
is good advice, especially for a new government that is starting.
No, I think that's true, and not to say that the Kenyan government or African governments are not doing a part, but we can do much more.
We can do much more.
Yes, if you look at how the Ministry of Industry is set up in Kenya, there's a lot of support for incubation for businesses. You look at Kirdi that supports businesses to design their products, to innovate. It even incubates them. I know, like Azavi, this was incubated at Kirdi. You talk about the Kenya Industrial Estates that has space around the country, that is able to also incubate and provide space for entrepreneurs. If you look at some of the big manufacturers today, in the 60s and 70s, they started off at the Kenya Industrial Estates. So it's how do we resource them and get them to adapt to the modern times, because the world of today is different from what it was in the 70s or 80s. But we do have the fundamentals that we need to build upon as a continent.
Okay. I'm curious to know about Team Insight.
Yes.
Teamsight.
Yes.
Even calling it insight.
That's, I'll explain.
You'll explain. How did you come up with this name and the likes, And, what are you looking to achieve?
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks. So TinSight is actually, as you're saying, Tin Insights.
Okay.
So I registered TinSight in the year 2008. Then I was a young professional. I had just started working, and I was navigating the career ladder.
Yes.
And at that time,
yes.
I figured that if I had help or an institution that provided opportunities for networking, for mentorship, I would probably have had more clarity on the path to take. So I registered TinSight to do that, to provide an opportunity to equip, empower, and transform young people to achieve their full potential. And over the years, since 2008, I've operated with it at a very low key, used it to go and speak in schools, different high schools, in universities, sat in panels, and just shared my passion for mentorship and career guidance. This passion actually stems from my mom. My mom passed away last year, but her PhD and her master's thesis was about career guidance. And then she did a paper on how students were struggling to make career choices, and almost half the population in the country, because she was doing her master's at the University of British Columbia, and she came to Kenya to do her research, and she found that over 50% of people who make career choices did not have anyone to guide them in their choices. 50%. Meaning that you ended up with very unfulfilling careers, you ended up with people who have made the wrong career choices and are having to change midstream, or are actually just very unhappy in the things that they do, or are not maximizing their God-given abilities and talents. So out of that, that's part of where my passion came from. And this year, in 2023, I decided that almost 15 years later, why don't I take TinSight to the next level? First of all, do more activities for the young people, but also grow it to be a platform for youth and young professionals. And for that reason, you'll see some rebranding and more products. So in January 2023, we launched Career Dialogues. So Career Dialogues is a product more for young professionals, the youth, people in university, and also 0 to 5 in their career journey, who are looking to just understand, how do I navigate this career journey? What are my options? How do you settle down in a new job? How do you deal with the dynamics in a workplace? What are the trends in the world? Because also the Gen Z have a completely different workspace than we do. Yeah, what are the trends? No, they're amazing. What are the trends? How do we also understand them and fully maximize their talents and really the skills that they have? So we had a good event in January where we had about 150 people, some seasoned professionals like Mike Masharia and others. We sold out, we did. and that was great. So it's something that we'll be doing quarterly. The next one is going to be on April 1st, and we'll keep those conversations going. We're also doing career dialogues in schools. We have an event at Braeside next week, and we'll partner with different schools, see even how we can go around the country, because this is needed by more than just the people in Nairobi. So see what we can do in the counties. We are working with professional bodies, looking to work with the women in real estate. They want us to help them run their mentorship program, amongst other things. So there are a lot of exciting things coming, having conversations with some partners in Australia. So that's what is happening on TinSight. I'm the founder and patron, but there's a CEO who runs the day-to-day activities. So we are keen to see how we can take this to the next level. So the next event is actually today. This evening we have our Women's Day event. This is the Women's Month, so we wanted to just have the conversation also on how innovation and technology is helping to drive gender equity. So we have an interesting panel, the CEO of Microsoft, the president of Schneider Electric. We have Safaricom on the panel, Amari Consulting, Gesari Ombati, a young 21-year-old computer science student. So just a group discussing how we see innovation and technology playing a role on gender equity. We also have a young entrepreneur who's manufacturing reusable sanitary towels. So we'll have a conversation on period poverty and what we can do about it, and what it really means for those who are not as advantaged as we are.
It's a powerful panel.
Yes, so it's going to be at
Do you
Game
still have
Soups.
space for some of my viewers?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes.
It's we can create space
Create
for
space,
them. Yes. So it's happening today
Yeah.
on the 2nd of March at Game Suites
Okay.
on Riverside Drive.
Okay.
Your listeners are welcome to join.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a poster and we'll share it with you. They can get in touch with us.
That's okay. I'll be sharing.
Yeah,
Let me
thanks.
get a reaction first. I think Danson is saying something here. Let me read it out.
Okay.
And Danson, thanks a lot for tuning in as well. So I've been asking myself, is
Mhm.
it possible for the government, county or national, to be evaluating the business before asking for the license? Key example, a barber shop in rural shops, in a rural shop is asked to pay the same rate as one in a rural setup within the same county. Wow. They're taking you back to that conversation.
They're taking me back to
You have experience on this. What do you have to say about it?
I have to say that governments, of course, have to be more supportive of especially small businesses. One of the other challenges when we spoke about the challenges businesses face is the regulatory hurdles and the cost. And especially for small businesses, if you don't allow something to grow and you're already milking from it, how much can you possibly make even as a government?
Yeah.
So there's that room where you give a business the environment and the room to be able to scale, and over time you will get your taxes. So I know there's a startup bill in Parliament
Yeah.
that is looking to see how we can exempt small businesses from some of these taxes, but yeah, it does make for a hard business environment for SMEs.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Let me get back to the conversation on our team side and team side. Call it that. And I'm curious to know from your end,
Yes.
now that you're speaking to them, and honestly speaking, the reason why I say Gen Z is an interesting one
Yes.
is because I think, as you can see around, quite a number of them around here.
I can see the company you're keeping.
Yes, and they're quite interesting.
They are.
honestly. But my question is, the teams that you're talking to are actually the next workforce
Them,
that
they,
we
them.
have, just in the next few years in the certain
Yes.
workforce that we have. What are they asking? What are they curious about? I don't know. Can you mention a few things? What are the questions they throw at you?
Yeah.
And are they a surprise to you as well? I don't know.
For them, their world is different from ours because a lot of them were born in technology, first of all. So, our generation was a mixture of analog and digital.
Yes.
Their generation is going to be fully digital.
Okay.
So, for them, even the career choices that they're looking at are quite different. They're having conversations about studying abroad because they see the world as a global village. They're not like us who maybe our limitation was you're seeing University of Nairobi, yeah? and all that. So they're seeing the world from a more global perspective.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole new set of careers that has come up,
Yeah.
where vlogging is a career, for example.
It's a big
Forex
one.
trading is a career.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with a 14-year-old. She was going to high school. And what does she want to be? A Forex trader. So, they're saying things which are quite different from what we are used to. Yeah, so it's that keeping your mind open, knowing that it's the same mindsets that make you succeed whatever generation.
Yeah.
So it's still saying it's the basics of working hard,
Yeah.
being a person of integrity, showing up and putting in your best,
Okay.
being creative. So just teaching the same principles because I'm clear that principles don't change.
Yeah.
The landscape may change, analog digital may change, but there are certain principles of life that remain the same across all generations.
Okay. Let me put you on the spot a little. And I want to ask you about, you're still very close to businesses in this country because you are still with them 10 years and going. So there's this whole conversation about, we're talking about the world being a global, sort of village.
Mm-hmm.
And so borders are opening. We have seen the Africa Continental Trade opening and the likes. But you're also seeing people from other continents coming to set up businesses and the likes. Right now in the country, this whole conversation about, the Chinese should not trade here, I don't know, all those kind of things. Yet I know they have been doing business here. I'm curious to know about your view on this.
Fine.
On the spot.
I came to talk about other things.
I know. But also,
Yeah.
But also, what do you think should be done? Because as late as yesterday, there was a whole move, people walking on the street saying, hey, these guys are taking up businesses, and yet the world, as you say, is becoming a global village.
Yeah. This for me is a broader industrial policy conversation.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, because you have to zoom out, and that is how I would get out of the murky waters as a country,
Yeah.
as an African country. Because as we've said, our population is growing.
Yeah.
There are expectations from the citizenry and the people who put us in office. And the only way we can address them is by providing jobs and bringing down the cost of living. I think that's the most important thing. There was a survey carried out in Kenya this week that said the biggest challenge for people is jobs and the cost of living. The only known path to do that is industrialization and structural transformation, moving your economy from an agrarian-based economy to a manufacturing economy to a services economy. And I know there's been a challenge that we can jump from agriculture to services. I don't believe in that. I'm a believer in industrial policy and the fact that that is the path to grow a country. And there are drivers and enablers that make this happen. So as a country, and not just for Kenya, but for the African continent, we need to look at industrial policy. How do we look at the sectors where we have competitive and comparative advantage? How do we work on supporting those sectors by providing the conducive business environment, by dealing with the binding constraints, by dealing with the coordination challenges within government that stifle the growth of these industries? And that way then, you're going to see the cost of business come down. In the process, it's then more affordable to produce and manufacture locally. You're creating jobs. Then the conversation moves to another level. It doesn't become about who should trade where, but really that we have dealt with the issue of competitiveness, the cost of doing business, the coordination challenges in government, and we are making it more affordable to produce in our countries and attracting investment. Because the other big thing is, as I said at the beginning, a lot of these companies are looking to relocate. So if we put in the right business environment, those products being made in different parts of the world can be made in this continent. Then we would be buying them from the producers here and selling them at scale. So industrial policy is the path.
That's quite a long path. And it involves quite a number of the stakeholders. And
that's why the coordination has to be there.
You're right. As you mentioned, this is the Women's Month.
Yes,
and
it
I'm
is.
curious to ask you about what we have in store for the women of this country, because I know, as you said, there's something the organizer around it, and you're one of them as well.
Yes.
So let's talk about women and young women entrepreneurs. Is there a big enough space for them from where you see it? And I want to combine it with another one. And we have seen, little uptick on the Women Fund and Youth Fund, by the way. There has not been that excitement of taking up this particular fund. How can we address this, especially on the lack of women and youth taking up opportunities presented to them?
I think people take up opportunities when the market is conducive.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't just go and take a loan and then I'm dealing with high taxes or other binding constraints in the market. So for entrepreneurs, whether it's women, youth, or whatever entrepreneur, it brings us back to the issue of addressing the market failures and government working with businesses by supporting through, as we said, acceleration, incubation, and resourcing those things effectively. So for the women of Kenya, there's a lot of opportunities. I think over the years you've seen, even as you said, we did launch the Women in Manufacturing, there's women in real estate, there's women in business. So there's a lot of focus on having targeted initiatives that support women. The banking sector, I think, has also churned out a number of products. But the gap is real, unfortunately. It still remains that women are still not able to take up a lot of those finances in a number of cases. But it's really, how do we first fix the business environment, make it more affordable to do business locally. That way businesses will grow, whether it's women or youth-owned businesses. But for this month, I think let's celebrate the women doing big things, because a lot of them are. We've seen a lot of women SMEs, and I know you did meet a number of them when we would do work together, not just in Nairobi, but around the country, people coming up with innovative products, innovative solutions, creating employment. So that, I think, is one side of the story, and then see how we can create platforms and tools that support them more. So look at how even the Women Fund that existed, how do we scale it up? How do we back it up with incubation and acceleration and training? Because money on its own is not going to solve business challenges. How do we also bring in market linkages Because once I make my products, how do I get into a bigger supply chain?
Absolutely.
How do I supply government?
Yeah.
Can we also help them to access access the export markets?
Yeah.
With the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, there's a lot of opportunity for women-owned businesses to grow across the continent. As we speak today, 70% of cross-border trade is done by women. Can we turn those women into producers so that they're doing value addition and now using the platform they already have to trade across the continent? Can we improve how we run our payment systems across the continent, the logistics?
Yeah.
And I know the work is being done at AFCFTA, but there's room for us to really support and grow our women entrepreneurs in the continent. Yeah.
Okay. Let me jump into another conversation here, and I think guys know you much. They're saying that Phyllis is a leader. What are some of her tips to us ladies to get to high levels? I'm just reading it out, trying to get. I think the question is purely, do you have some secrets to become the leader that you are? Because you have been CEO for all these years, now you're in a global setting and still leading. What are your secrets?
Wow. One of them, I think, first of all, is I'm actually a Christian, so I'm a believer in just having a relationship with God and using that as your compass in life. So living a centered life and using that to really guide your path. The other thing for me is competence. So I'm keen on constantly building my competence and just constantly building it. People around me say I'm always learning, always going to school or always doing something. So I'm currently finishing my PhD. When I get fellowship opportunities, I take them. Training opportunities online. So I'm always open and ready to learn. And the reason is it builds your competencies. The other thing is I'm open for mentorship and coaching. I remember when I took my job as CEO, I had a coach for a whole year who really was supportive. My entire board at CAM was my mentors. I would reach out to all of them on advice on different things. So I'm very teachable. I have a teachable spirit. I'm always ready to learn. So I think being open to mentorship, coaching, and everything. And then being credible and a person of integrity. It's a difficult world we live in, but it makes a difference.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. On that same note, what does it mean to be a woman leader in this current world we're in? Because, and I think what I'm trying to ask is that there are specific challenges that face women leaders now that we're women. It would be nice for them to have that entire cocktail for them to be better leaders.
In the world we live in, of course, it's challenging to be a woman leader, not because it's something that doesn't happen, but because of the stereotypes and how society over the time has perceived or held women leadership, and also because of the other pressures that come with being a woman and a leader. But it's possible. As you've said, I've led organizations, I've chaired boards and continue to and do other things. And just want to encourage women that it's possible to do it. Just look for the opportunities, lean on your social networks. I always say that other things I think that has helped me to navigate my journey. My parents, the people in my house helps. My colleagues, because I've had a very supportive team where I've worked in the past and even where I am. So leaning on to people like that and learning to delegate. Because sometimes we want to do everything alone. It isn't possible. So as women, just learning to delegate and lean in on the support networks that we have around us.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm loving this, and I'm also trying to peruse through some of the questions. So feel free to ask for Zoom participants and even the ones who are watching on YouTube. So feel free to ask your question. Someone sent a question. Maybe this is a teenager. They're asking, what are your top three? Now they're putting on the spot. Top 3 career skills needed to become successful.
I think communication.
Yeah.
I think communication skills are important because at any given time you'll be communicating. So your ability to be able to communicate, to clearly articulate your issues, I think is a critical skill. The other one is leadership, and leadership for me stems from self-leadership. So the ability to not need to be supervised to do things, to be a driven person, to make leadership come from your heart, so that at any given time you're reaching out, at any given time you're prioritizing and planning your own schedule. So that self-leadership is another critical skill. Another one is negotiation. You're constantly negotiating and having those conversations. Yeah, so top of mind, those would be some of the ones I think that would be critical.
This question is an interesting one. Do you worry that as a strong female CEO and leader, you will intimidate men?
Oh my God, why would I worry about that?
The question's coming, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't worry about intimidating anyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're okay, you're good to go. Just
no, I'm
go.
fine.
Run your plan.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I'm just trying to peruse very quickly and see. The legacy one will be the last one that we'll talk about.
Okay.
I think the challenges one, I think that has been addressed, guys. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Tips. That one we have addressed the tips for success. I think there's what advice do you have? What would you advise future women, aspirants for leadership, to invest in themselves? And I think you've said something about investing, but do you have something else you could add on that? Any other top advice? I think we're asking.
That sounds like political leaders. I believe no. It's a good question, because that's one area we remain underrepresented in parts of this continent, and especially in Kenya. So it would be, first of all, to put themselves out there. We have fewer women seeking elective positions, for example. So build the networks, get involved in the political parties, because if you're going to get into politics, you need to get into the political party system. Being involved also at the grassroots level, actually supporting and changing lives. Building relationships and working with their male counterparts in politics.
Absolutely.
Because they are the ones in the space and they have the experience and expertise. So using them as coaches and mentors to navigate that political landscape. And then building credibility and skills on a subject area. So if you're passionate about driving, whether it's SMEs, if you're passionate about agriculture, whatever it is, have the competencies and skills and be able to deliver something of impact to the people on the grassroots.
There's a very interesting one here. Still on manufacturing.
Yes, okay.
A lot of women in manufacturing have restricted themselves into food and beverage. What would be your advice for them to venture differently?
No, it's actually a fact, and part of why we created the Women in Manufacturing program was that, actually. Not that there's a problem with food and beverage. It's the largest sector in the country. About 40% of businesses are there. But there's a lot more opportunity also in other sectors. So we wanted to see more women venture into the other sectors: building, mining and construction, automotive sector, paper and paperboard, cement. Why can't we have a female-owned cement manufacturing plant? So what I would encourage them is that there are a lot of opportunities in manufacturing across board. So we shouldn't limit ourselves only to the food and beverage or the traditional sectors that we've operated in, but see how we can broaden into different sectors.
I wanted to end the questions on that end because I think most of them were addressed. But I wanted to finalize with 3 questions. Number one is what you're doing there at the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. I just wanted people to understand what you're doing there, because some people have seen you in different countries. I'd like to know.
That's good. So currently I work at the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. I work in the advisory team. So the TBI advisory team has something called Global Client Services. So in the advisory team, what we do is we support our counterparts, which is mainly governments, because we work at the center of government, to deliver their development agenda. So we support in areas of strategy, policy, delivery, embedded in technology. So just to break it down and simplify that, is we help governments identify priorities that they need to look at so that they address their citizenry needs. So some of them you'll find it's economic. There are people looking to improve their business environment, attract investments into their country. So we support them with investment attraction, bringing in investors on board. working on business environment, amongst other things. Also support on public-private dialogue, just providing platforms for governments and private sector to think through and come up with solutions on different issues that affect the business environment. Yeah, so that's basically what private sector development and industrialization does there.
One of the questions around that area was, let me just throw it as it
Yes.
is. What has been your biggest wow factor from traveling with your new job?
Oh my, I've traveled a lot more in the past because
Yes.
I worked in aviation for 7 years and then I worked in KM for 9 years. So I've traveled a lot. It's people have seen me traveling.
Yes. So it's a wow
in the
factor.
recent past. The wow factor now has been going to African countries and looking at them from an economic perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just because every time I'm flying in, I read what is their current development plan, their vision 2030 or their vision 2040. This country is prioritizing these sectors.
Yeah.
These are the opportunities in this country.
Yeah.
Tourism is big in Zambia. You know, those things you don't consciously think about. So it's interesting just to look at Africa from a lens of what can we do for economic transformation here.
There you have it. Now, I think you've already told guys that today there's that session and we would like to as well invite you to do that. I think there's another question that's popped in. Let me have to look at it to see whether you've already answered it.
Okay.
Wow, this is interesting. This is putting you on the spot completely. How do you balance your family and work with all the traveling? And what would you advise a woman looking to get into that?
Yeah.
Know that you're a
The $1 million question, why don't they ask men how they balance? Anyway, don't worry. As I said, I have a good social support network. In the past, my mom and dad were both there. They would pick up my kids, go to school events and everything. Dad is still there, which is great. But I've also had like the same help for my help has been with me for the last 14 years. So been there supporting, bringing up my kids with me and really being very supportive. My husband is an amazing support network.
Yeah.
So he drops the kids in school, helps with homework. So having all that, I think has helped.
Okay.
Then learning to prioritize your time, because when you have a busy schedule, you also can't do everything. So you learn to the things you'll have to say no to. And that no is a complete answer, that sometimes you do have to say no to activities that are not a priority.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you have it. No more personal question, guys. Now, anyway,
There you go.
The topic was nurturing innovators for successful businesses in Africa, and already you're doing something big. I wanted you to give us a parting shot. And in that parting shot as well, what legacy would you like to leave behind? So how we end the conversation.
Thanks. Yes. So as we close, I want to see how I can equip, empower, and transform young people to achieve their full potential. So that's what I'm going to continue to do with the Tinsight platforms, with the Career Dialogues platform, with Career Site, which is what this will morph up into, because the demands from the young professionals are also growing, and they might not necessarily want to be Tinsight. So we'll see the brand evolving over time. So that's what I want to do, to just enable people to achieve their full potential. The legacy I want to leave behind is the legacy of being a great mother and a great wife, and achieving my purpose in life.
Wow. When you say a great mother, you know all these teens that you're mentoring, it's going to be a great mother to make.
Oh, that would be
right?
great. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. I know I have seen some questions popping up, but let me see whether this one, okay. So the event tonight, someone is asking,
Yes.
how can we come?
You're welcome to come. We have tickets at 3,000 per person.
Okay.
The event is at Game Suites on Riverside Drive.
Yeah.
We will share the poster with you, Maina. If you
Yes.
can put it, it has the buy goods number, the till number. So if they pay in good time, because we'll need to lock registrations. We had actually locked them, but we will open them up until midday, so that we notify the hotel of the final numbers. Yeah.
There you go. Anybody can come?
Yeah, anybody can come. They're welcome. Yeah.
Okay.
Male, female, young, old.
Anyone
Anyone who's passionate
young
about
as well.
mentorship, is young at heart, and is passionate about young professionals and the topic of women, innovation, technology, which is what we'll be discussing today.
Yeah.
Do come and network and meet our interesting panelists and everyone who will be in the room.
Absolutely. There you have it, all your questions answered. I'm just trying to peruse so that I don't get harassed later on. Why did you ask my question? I think some of them we've already answered. I'm just trying to see on all platforms whether everything has been done. But just to thank a few people. So today I'm going to award the first person who asked the first question. That's none other than Danson Ndegwa. Danson, from our shop, I don't know what you want to take home. I have some crisps, plantains that you've never tasted, I guess. I also have some Melvin's green teas, mafuta ya kupika, kimbo, some chips. Msafi. I don't know what you want. Danson, if you're listening, you should be able to type now. I'm giving you samples here too, so you can tell me. What else have I? There's also sanitizer. You're going to take a sanitizer home. So, but anyway, I think you will type, and then I will let you know how to get it. So there you have it, guys. I think we have to end the conversation there. It's been an honor having you, Phyllis. Always a pleasure, by the way.
Thanks, Maina.
And once you've gone to the globe and have seen all the perspectives and advised governments, please come back fully now and help us out as well.
I'm happy to, and I'm here on the ground, so always ready to support.
Okay.
Yes.
So definitely saying I want an iPhone, but let me stick with crisps.
iPhone was on offer.
There was no iPhone that, but we will have that conversation. Maybe we might invite them here.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, you can take some plantains courtesy of Azavi. They're locally made, by the way.
They're amazing.
Yes, they're amazing.
I've had them, yeah.
Yeah, when she started this business, Phyllis was checking her out, which she
Yes.
does the best job. So
Yes. She was my colleague in KQ, by the way.
Oh.
Worked
She
with
was in
Pauline.
KQ?
Yeah, worked with
Okay.
Pauline many years ago.
Wow.
In the airline, yeah.
Hey, you guys. I think there's a secret to go through the aviation side and then grow to become. Anyway, those are my things. Thanks a lot for your time, guys. That's it for BizTalks. See you same time, same place next week. Bye bye.